Is now a good time to sell a luxury property in Chisago County? Luxury doesn't follow the same metrics as entry level. Here's what matters right now. So when it comes to luxury market, defining exactly what that is in your area is important to understand if you fit inside of it or outside of it. So for Chisago County, Josh has been a realtor for 800 years, something like that. What is luxury in Chisago County? What does that look like?
So generally luxury, as we kind of talked about, is 2.5 times the median sales price. So Chisago County right now is right around 350. So let's call it the 700, 750 price range and above would be what I would call luxury. And what kind of generally classifies or the type of house that fits in there, that's going to be most likely a lake home, acreage properties, newer construction, things like that is what you're going to find in that luxury pool for Chisago County.
So when it comes to that price range, here's a few signals that are really important to keep your eye on. Obviously, in the last few years, we've had this giant increase in interest rates. And here's what's interesting about the 750 plus or luxury or million plus price range is those buyers are not nearly as rate sensitive as everybody else. So what happens is a lot of those people may have a larger home at 750 are going to sell. They probably bought it before 2020. They probably have a lot of equity. They can make large purchases on these new properties, buy down the rate, have a few different options. Their rate sensitivity is very much so different than the rest of price ranges. So we've actually seen that market move faster than it ever has, ironically, oddly enough. So the buyer demand is there. The buyer demand for luxury or 750 plus is typically equates a lot to how the economy is doing in the stock market. Realize that that price range, they have a lot of funds, they own a lot of things. Their cash flow isn't as concerned by are they going to lose their job or not kind of thing. It's based off of, hey, how much equity do I have? How much equity do I have in assets and stocks? So when you see good stock years, good economy years, you will see good buyer demand in those price ranges. Those are the few things that are going to be really important. And the other piece that's kind of culminating with all this, if we go, okay, stock market doing well, the economy has good foreseeable future, we have a lot of equity in our houses. Why isn't there more of these sales? It's inventory.
Yeah, inventory right now in Chisago and a lot of the Twin Cities market area is really low in this higher end luxury market. So when something does come on, it is generally moving really quick. Buyers are generally aggressive, most likely cash. I think we've seen more cash transactions in the luxury market than we ever have. So understanding that if you're thinking or planning to make that move, now is the time because buyers are there, the demand is there, the economy is doing fairly well. So if you're thinking of selling, let's start getting your house prepped. Let's start having those conversations of what this is going to take and what this is going to look like. Are there things we need to do to get your house ready? I think that's kind of some of the big strategy right now for people that are, hey, am I going to do this? If I am, now's the time, not, hey, we don't want to wait until May to put this house on the market, especially a lake home. Buyers want to be able to enjoy that over the summertime period. So they're going to be more excited that early spring than they are going to be probably that later July, early fall, because they're not going to get to use it at that point.
When it comes to like launch window or timing of putting your house on the market, I know that's hypercritical when it comes to lake home properties. Can you talk about when the ideal time frame should be?
I would say
what's the wrong time frame?
Right. The wrong time frame, I think, is waiting until that late summer. I understand we want to enjoy it all summer, but I think you're going to lose thousands of dollars because of you're missing that early window. I think once that ice is starting to come out, things are starting to get green, we should probably be there, be on the market. I've seen a small part of it also like later fall. The season's over. Most buyers are going, hey, sellers are motivated. They want to get their lake home sold, but they're actually still getting good money for it in that later fall time period.
So specifically, I think it's realizing that being on the earlier front end of the spring market is actually better because you're going to have a lot more competition. And if you wait until your flowers bloom and your landscaping, and we're kind of talking July, people are already busy. They're already doing other things. Like, yes, it can still work, but I think your optimal time period is right then and there. But I think you do have this second window, which actually is fall, which seems a little counterintuitive. But I think both those time periods, but in a way, your worst time period is actually in the middle of summer, which you would think, well, that's when all the boats are driving past my house, right? But they're not thinking about moving right now. Right. They don't really want to.
They want the summer vacations. They want to enjoy.
They're already out there.
Yes. The fall period is the most sellers pull their house off the market. They're going south for the winter. It's less competition. Early on, it's let's get ahead of the competition. Let's beat out the vacationers. Let buyers be able to enjoy the lake for the year.
When it comes to marketing a luxury home, like what strategies do you think are more important in that price range than any other price range?
I think the big thing, photos. I'm a proponent of lots of photos. We differ a little bit on that, but having lots of photos to really dictate what the house looks like, having the drone. We do the listing showcase on Zillow. I think that's a huge plus that just adds that extra highlight of that property that really pushes it, making sure it's staged properly. The house needs to be clean, neat, and we can't have repairs walking into the property.
You have to be able to create a vision when it comes to some of these properties where you have a very unique shoreline, right? Let's just say you have a footage frontage, you have a very large house, and let's say it's out of date a little bit. You just have to be able to create a plan or vision for that buyer. That's what has to happen in those price ranges. If you've already created that vision, this house is already elite. We got to be able to show every detail we possibly can. They have to be able to understand what they're actually getting. Maybe who the architect was, what kind of countertops these are, that this is a commercial grade oven. All of those small details that go into what a luxury property is that needs to be easily accessible for a buyer to understand and also, more importantly, be able to feel. Nobody wants to go into a dirty $1.5 million house. It's still a dirty house. Who cares that it's $1.5 million?
Now walk into the bathroom and the floors are cold, but yet we have heated floors. Why is that feature not on? We need to be able to accentuate those features why the buyers are walking through the property.
And I think the most important thing is with those properties, you have a wider buyer pool, as in farther away, typically. Like you can get buyers from out of state. You can get them from across the other side of the Twin Cities. People can move from Wayzata and move to Chisago County to get a little bit more space and get a little more quiet. So your marketing net and web that you cast as an agent has to go a little bit farther than it typically does. It's not good enough just to put it onto Zillow or onto the MLS and hope whoever had that search range set up is going to find it. Because there are some people, if you have a unique enough property, that if you cast it wide enough, you'll get somebody you never even thought possible or that never would have seen it had you not put it in front of them. Because in this buyer range, people can afford it. They just don't know it's there. And if they knew it was there and it was readily accessible for them and they understood it, that's why it's so important to have really good photography. That's why listing showcases are so important. So somebody can visualize exactly what that house is. So somebody in California that is paying $1.5 million for that 2,500 square foot home and paying a ridiculous amount of taxes goes, I'm going to move to the Midwest. So I don't have to pay this much. What can I get for $1.5 million? It's this. And I can walk through this tour and I can click a button and an agent will go there, right when I want them to and do a video tour of this entire property to make this super easy for me. They might do it. And I think that's what you have to optimize for when it comes to a luxury property, when it comes to listing that property and specifically marketing that property. Here's something that will be useful. It's our complete seller report to help you understand exactly these three signals when it comes to your property, specifically for you, so you can make the right decision.